50 years ago, Jaws didn't just change movies, it changed the world. The iconic Blockbuster, directed by Steven Spielberg, was released on June 20th, 1975, and its impact is still being felt today. In this video, we're going to dive into the movie's crazy production process, what makes Jaws iconic, and then we'll talk about the heart of the story, Chief Brody, Hooper, and Quint. And if you somehow don't know, the movie is about a shark wreaking havoc off the coast of Amity Island, a town that heavily relies on revenue from summer tourists. And with the 4th of July right around the corner, town officials are met with a dilemma. Do they close the beaches and save lives, or do they keep the beaches open and risk more deaths? And yeah, we'll get into spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, go watch it. It's 50 years old, for God's sake. Anyways, getting this movie made was nothing short of a miracle. Beginning with the screenplay, it's credited to Peter Benchley, the author of the original novel of the same title, and Carl Gottlieb, who rewrote parts during production. There were also various other contributors who were uncredited, and Robert Shaw himself, who plays Quint, even helped pen the USS Indianapolis speech. But yeah, the script was constantly changing and evolving while the film was being shot, which obviously wasn't ideal for planning and production. But the issues with the script were just the beginning. Problems persisted throughout the entire production process, leading to the budget ballooning and the shooting schedule going from 55 days to 159 days. Spielberg was striving for authenticity and suspense, and this led to some major problems. For one, his crew did something that had never been done before. They created replicas of 25-foot sharks that could swim, perform stunts, and be filmed from all sorts of angles. The issue was that the mechanical sharks didn't work half of the time. And two, Spielberg demanded they shoot on the Atlantic Ocean instead of a Hollywood studio tank. By doing so, they were constantly navigating challenges from Mother Nature, varying weather conditions, and even tourists and boats crowding the waters where they were shooting. But regardless, this was kind of a perfect storm for Spielberg. He had recently directed a movie called Duel, which is about a man being chased by a monstrous semi-truck. Spielberg saw similarities between Duel and Jaws, and he even said that Jaws was kind of like a sequel, so he knew he had to do it. And Spielberg was only 27 at the time. He was inexperienced and probably naive, which led him to make the creative decisions to use a mechanical shark and to shoot on the ocean. These choices caused problems during production, but in the end, they made the movie feel more authentic. After all, it all worked out. Jaws was successful financially and critically. Depending on the source, the budget was between $7 and $9 million, and it earned more than $477 million worldwide, being the #1 movie every weekend during the summer of 1975. It was also nominated for 4 Academy Awards, winning for original score, editing, and sound, while only losing Best Picture to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. But despite this success, what is it that really makes Jaws iconic, and how did it change the world? Well, let's start off with the star of the show, the shark itself. The crew actually gave the shark a name, which was Bruce, after Spielberg's attorney. But yeah, circling back to earlier, with Spielberg's creative direction and the fact that the mechanical sharks didn't work most of the time, he realized it would be more suspenseful to not see the shark until later in the movie. You see glimpses of what it can do, thrashing around its victims, the blood and the gore left behind, and how it pulled the entire dock offshore and dragged it through the water. But for the most part, Spielberg heightens the suspense by hiding the shark and forcing the audience to imagine the terror lurking beneath the water. You don't see the shark in full until more than halfway through the movie, and the suspense and authenticity created is one of the reasons why Jaws is iconic. And then of course, you can't talk about Jaws without mentioning the score by John Williams. Spielberg himself said the score was clearly responsible for half the movie. Whether you've seen the movie or not, you've heard the score, you've mimicked it yourself, and you know that it means terror is coming. It adds suspense throughout the entire movie, and elevates it to absolute terror when the shark finally gets its victim and it's too late for them. And this movie is so iconic that the fear is still felt today. It's more likely than not that you know someone who either saw the movie and is now terrified to swim in the ocean, or they refuse to watch the movie because they know it'll scare them out of ever swimming in the ocean again. Jaws also changed movie release schedules. Before its release, not many big movies came out in the summer for a variety of different reasons. But the success of Jaws was one of the catalysts for turning summer into the time for blockbusters. This year alone, we have a new installment in the Jurassic Park franchise, and new Superman and Fantastic Four movies, all coming out in July. But even with these factors being some of the main reasons why Jaws is iconic, I want to talk about the real heart of the story: Roy Scheider, Richard Dreyfuss, Robert Shaw, and the characters that they play. Roy Scheider plays Chief Martin Brody, a former New York City police officer who comes to Amity Island to get away from the big city, despite being afraid of the ocean. Richard Dreyfuss plays Matt Hooper, an oceanographer that comes from a family of wealth who joins from out of town to help with the situation. And last but not least, Robert Shaw plays Quint, a hard-nosed, blue-collar local shark hunter and a survivor of the sinking of the USS Indianapolis when it delivered the atomic bomb that was used on Hiroshima. These three guys, who couldn't be more different from each other, get on Quint's boat, the Orca, and go hunting for the shark. And of course there's tension between the three of them. They're annoyed by each other. Chief Brody is forced to shovel chum in the ocean, and Hooper and Quint clash because of Hooper's city boy background and the fancy technology and tools he brings with him. But this makes it so much better when they bond over a few drinks and compare old scars. And this launches us into one of the best scenes in the entire movie, Quint's monologue.
Japanese submarine slammed 2 torpedoes into our side, Chief.
And the rest is history. Just Robert Shaw being fully immersed in the character of Quint. More than 3 minutes of him telling the chilling story of the USS Indianapolis and how 1,100 men went in the water and only 316 came out. Hooper and Brody just sit there, fully attentive, and I'm sure Richard Dreyfuss and Roy Scheider were just mesmerized watching Robert Shaw perform that scene. A funny story to go along with that scene is that Robert Shaw asked Spielberg if he could have a few drinks to immerse himself in the character even more, since they were drinking on the boat. And that didn't end up going too well, and Spielberg had to wrap shooting early that day. But yeah, apparently Robert Shaw was really apologetic about the whole thing. He called Spielberg to apologize and asked for another chance to do the scene. And of course, when he got that chance, he made it count and delivered an absolutely amazing performance. But yeah, the wild night goes on for the boys, and it's interrupted when the shark comes back. And to keep it short, the three of them get the job done, but at the cost of Quint's life. Another great thing about this movie is Chief Brody's arc. He starts off as the new guy in town, afraid of the ocean, and the scapegoat for the initial victims. But he's a good man who cares about his family and wanted to make a difference in Amity Island. So he gets on the Orca, and in the end, he's the one to take down the shark when he shoots the scuba tank in its mouth and blows it to pieces and swims back to shore with Hooper. And to cap off the video, I thought I'd just go through some of my favorite scenes. Starting off with Chief Brody on the beach, where the camera goes back and forth between him and his point of view. He's disregarding everything that's being said to him because he's so focused and paranoid about what's going on in the water. And of course, this eventually leads to the famous dolly zoom. And then I also really like the scene when Brody goes out at night with Hooper. The lighting from Hooper's boat is so well done, and everything just looks so cool while they're out on the ocean in the middle of the night. Then you have Hooper getting spooked when Ben Gardner's head rolls out of the hole in the boat. And finally, when Chief Brody is shoveling chum, and we finally get a clear glimpse of the shark for the first time in the entire movie. Brody slowly backpedals to Quint, and Roy Scheider improvises the famous line,
"You're gonna need a bigger boat."
Those are just a few iconic scenes, but let me know what your favorites are in the comments. But yeah, 50 years later, and Jaws more than holds up. It's an all-time classic. Let me know what you love about Jaws, or if it ruins swimming in the ocean for you. Thanks for watching, and feel free to like and subscribe.